I remember in high school, everybody, you remember all those acclimates you wanted to get in high school. You want to be the best dressed, you want to be the best athlete. And, although I was all of those, I wasn't validated for that. I was one of the best athletes. I was, best dressed and all those things, but I wasn't never validated for that. And I think one of the things we have to understand, it doesn't matter if anyone validates you. If you validate yourself, you will continue to build and win in life, because it's not about everyone validating you. It's about you knowing who you are. So, and eventually the world will catch on and begin to understand exactly why you walk the way you walk. So.
What's going on, you guys? Charles Oglesby here, also known as Todd Millionaire, founder and director of the Todd Capital Investment Club, also 4-year podcaster. You guys all know who I am. Created the best-selling options course, also created the best-selling freedom pack that consists of everything that you need to start from where you are and obtain financial freedom in less than a year. I believe that you can do it. If you take the things that we put in this freedom pack, you can accomplish those goals. So click the link in the bio. Check us out. Support what we have going on. We do nothing if it does not add value to you. So best believe that whatever you invest in us, you're going to get 10 times that return back. My name is Charles Oglesby. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, rate and review our podcast. Leave a comment, leave us some feedback. We love to see it. We love to read it, and we respond to all comments. So check out the episode. Welcome to another edition of the Millionaire Talk Show, formerly known as the Oglesby and Scott Show. And before that, the Todd Capital Millionaire Podcast, which is interesting because when it was the Todd Capital Millionaire Podcast, we had an episode with our guest that we have here today. Okay. It actually got cut short when it was getting really hot. She was dropping bombs, and I was working a job, and jobs are doing what jobs are doing, so I had to cut it close. But I'm glad to get her back because she has a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure you've seen her on the internet. Her name is Williams.
Yes.
And she has a real estate lending company. She has been doing some ground up development, and she also is in the flipping business. So she's like an all over monster in real estate in the Atlanta area, and you guys are definitely in for a treat. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Awesome. I totally remember that episode. It was about 5 or 6 years ago, wasn't it? Maybe, but I totally remember that. So definitely look forward to this conversation.
The interesting thing about it is you have such a wealth of knowledge. We were talking about 401ks. We weren't even talking about real estate.
Right.
So we'll get to that. But I'm curious if you can just introduce yourself to the guests, let them know who you are and where you're from.
Awesome. Well, my name is Reunekiea Williams, aka Reunek. Is where all of my social media handles is. And, I just realized that it was easy to shorten that because people couldn't just say Reunekiea. So, but it is. My name is Reunekiea Williams. I am a native of Georgia. They say it's nothing sweeter than a Georgia peach. But I'm a native of Georgia and moved to Atlanta back in 06 and came here to really just further my education at Georgia State. So that's why a lot of my knowledge came from really my foundation, just going to school and getting multiple degrees. And I have my undergrad in real estate, and I have an undergrad in finance, and I have a master's in finance. And further that education and got a whole host of financial degrees. And, real estate was just my baby. I don't know what it was about real estate. It was my baby. But, just understanding numbers just from the wealth of knowledge I have accumulated since I was 18, 19 years old. And, at 19 years old, I had this moment. I'm like, oh, my God, we're all doing this backwards. We really think it's about working for the money, but it's really about making the money work for you. So just understanding that at such a young age, it just put my mind in a different perspective from 19, 20 years old, where most people was getting out of college, getting a job. And I'm like, nah, it's not about getting a job. It's really about the money working for you. So that's kind of how I started. And I've just been building on that knowledge. You go to school and get all that education, which is, I wouldn't call it theory, but everything goes right in the books, But once you get out into the real world, there's real world experiences. So for the last 10 or 15 years, I've been getting this real world of experiences on top of the education. So just continue to follow my education as well. So
I always ask people this question, and I'm curious, what was life like growing up for you?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. I grew up in a 2-parent household, which most of my friends wasn't in that. And I didn't understand the importance of that foundation until I got older, because, we was able to thrive in ways that I see that my close friends wasn't. With a two-parent household, the mother has the ability to be a nurturer. She's not working 2 or 3 jobs trying to provide. She knows exactly where her kids at. She's making sure they're getting out the education. And that's such an understatement in our community. Is the importance of that, because it allows both parents to pour into you under the same roof. So I think, having both of my parents, and, we had condominiums and condos in Florida. So every summer we went on these lavish vacations, when and I didn't realize then that a lot of my friends didn't have those same luxuries. So, growing up, it was, I played sports. I think that has a lot to do with the way I move today. Because, it's one of those things. I remember in high school, everybody, you remember all those acclimates you wanted to get in high school. You want to be the best dressed, you want to be the best athlete. And, although I was all of those, I wasn't validated for that. I was one of the best athletes. I was, best dressed and all those things, but I wasn't never validated for that. And I think one of the things we have to understand, it doesn't matter if anyone validates you. If you validate yourself, you will continue to build and win in life, because it's not about everyone validating you. It's about you knowing who you are. So, and eventually the world will catch on and begin to understand exactly why you walk the way you walk. So that's pretty much growing up in the South, and growing up in a two-parent household that just taught me a lot about the foundation of parenting and the foundation of our community.
What sports did you play?
I played basketball. I was 1, 2, and 3. And I also ran track. I did the 100, the 200, the 4x1, and the 4x4. So I wasn't a long distance. I liked sharp running, but just natural. Didn't understand the natural ability until you got a little bit older. It's like, man, no one taught me this. We didn't, back in the day, it wasn't TVs in every room. So we didn't grow up watching sports and things of that nature. So just being able to get out there at a young age and play something that I was never taught. That taught me a lot too, that we have these natural abilities to be great. And sometimes we will devalue those natural abilities, or whatever the case may be, and just understand natural ability is a gift. And if you understand how to really pour into that gift and perfect that gift, it becomes your passion in some type of way.
I noticed that women who play basketball are balling in real life too. Like, I don't know what it is. Can you explain this to me? Because I'm not on the other side of the women's basketball locker room apparently, but what's going on?
I think one of the things when you get to that side of being an entrepreneur, you begin to learn, how do I want to put this? So that's a really, really great question, because I don't think we understand the power of that. Is that we began to learn we began to not fear competition, and as a woman, we are naturally fearful. And that's why men can just jump off on the cliff and hope he grow his wing on the way down. A woman is like, hey, I need these wings before I jump off. Where we landing? How far we gotta go? So I think, playing sports, I grew a natural ability to be competitive. I grew a natural ability to run plays. I grew a natural ability to be on a winning team. And when you are naturally a winner, you naturally want to win. So I think that was part of it. Just not being afraid to lose, and definitely not being afraid to get out there and put your all on the line to win. And I think that's what playing sports taught me. And then growing up with brothers with no sisters taught me a lot too. But that's a whole nother story.
So when did you get into real estate?
That's a great question. So when I say we already have the answers to our life, we do. It's already in us. It downloaded in us. We got to, upload it. You feel me? So at 17, 18, I honestly don't have any family in real estate. I have no family entrepreneur. My parents were military and factory workers. I have absolutely no no examples of anyone fixing and flipping within my family, anyone being an entrepreneur. So it's one of those things. I was 18 years old. I'll never forget it. I was thinking, I was like, what am I going to school for? I was 17, 18 years old, and my first thought was accounting and finance, because I just always been good with numbers. That's just been my thing. My mom is a CPA and a tax accountant, so it's just something she passed down to us, and I'm just really good with numbers. So that was my first thought. I'm definitely going to go to school for accounting and finance, and something triggered me and say, how can I lose real estate? We all need it. And that's before I even understand the power of real estate, what I understood about real estate. I'm like, if I'm going to go to school for something, I need to go to school for something that we all need. And real estate just popped in my mind. I was like, real estate? Okay. And finance, the real estate has to be financed. So I figured I can just bring that full circle there. And that's really how that started, is just listening to you. If I didn't listen to my mind when something triggered real estate, I would have never went into it. And then not only when it triggered, what we do at 17, 6 years old, Mom, I think I want to go to school for real estate. And I can't lie, I love you to death, Mom, but this is true. And she was like, nah, it's not, it's commission-based, and you're not going to be able to go to school and get a good job and get a salary. It's commission-based. I'm like, well, how can I lose if we all need a house? That means that I have enough product that everyone needs, so I can't lose. And I love my parents. I love everyone to death, and I think we have to understand that you have the answer. No one else around you have more answers about your life than you. So if I had to just be a strong-minded individual at 17 years old and say, I hear you, Mom, but there's something pulling me to this, and this is what I'm going to go into. And I had this theory that I can't lose because we all need real estate. Yeah, that's that.
So I think what's interesting is we have a similar path. And I think that's why when we first had this conversation it resonated, because my mom's a CPA and a tax accountant, and my undergrad degree is in finance.
Wow.
But I didn't go the real estate route because I didn't see the careers that matched with that degree. So what did you do after college to use your degree to your advantage?
That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, while I was in school, I bought my first property while I was in school. So honestly, when I look back on it, I'm like, I could have just went and got my real estate license and not spent $40,000 on a bachelor's degree in real estate. But be honest with you, no. I'm glad I took that route, because that route taught me commercial real estate. It didn't teach me fix and flip. We didn't talk about fix and flipping, buying and holding. Fix and flipping, wholesaling, none of that was taught. It was all about commercial, cash flow and producing commercial properties. So I graduated with a mindset in commercial, and I just took that same understanding in commercial and I applied it to real estate, because I knew my funds wasn't commercial-like. You feel me? So I had to figure out, how do I get into this real estate? How do I get into this industry with nothing? And I ended up buying my first real estate, and to be honest with you, I bought it off credit cards, and I never forget that. And it's one of the same practices and services I provide to people, because I did that. I'll never forget it. This guy, Atlanta just a hustle. It's a hustle. You feel? So when I bought my first piece, I bought 2 properties at age 22. And I would have never bought that if I wasn't going and learning about real estate. That degree taught me the power of real estate. So at a very young age, although my money was minimum, my mindset was grand. And as long as I had the grand mindset, the money would come. And that's what I always thought. And then I ran into some people who taught me wholesaling. The street guy's going to teach you some wholesaling. So about 8 years ago, that was probably 2010. I ran into one of the, wholesaler guys out here, and it was easy for me to catch on because I already knew real estate. I already knew the verbiage, the terminology. I could speak to anyone. I don't care who you are. I'm calling you about your property. So I walked out of there with a confidence that most people who starts in real estate would never have. Because when you know your stuff, you're just confident. Your walk is confident. So I could walk out of there and have those confident conversations. But most importantly, before I even graduated, I bought 2 houses. The first house, the second house I got completely scammed on. But this is back in 2008. I bought my first property in 2009. But this, if you knew what was going on around that time, it was just a whole bunch of scamming. But one thing I could say about my real estate degree is it didn't come with Scam 101. And I could not identify the scammer. I had to just get scammed, and I had to go through that to learn that. And I'll be honest with you, I'm glad I got scammed because it taught me so much. I'd rather go through that at 22, no kids, just a little student debt, not all of that, responsibilities. I'm glad I got scammed at 22 because you're not going to scam me at this age, and I got more to hold up at this age. I could bounce back at 20-some years old. But it taught me so much. And when I went through it, and I went through that whole scamming thing, and this guy pretty much sold me a house that he didn't own. I didn't have my stuff together. I didn't use an attorney. It was just all the wrong stuff. I did everything wrong. I walked right outside with a whole degree and did everything wrong. But the key is that I was confident to get back up and understand it because it wasn't going to defeat me because I knew I was onto something that everybody needs.
So he sold you a house that he didn't own. I'm assuming there was no title company involved?
So this is wholesaling, So basically, I'm thinking, so the first house I bought, it was a really good investment. This guy sold me this house. I feel like I got scammed at the end of the day when I was going through that because I didn't know nothing about wholesaling. That's before I learned wholesaling. He wholesaled, a house. I wish I would have kept it. He wholesaled the house. He bought it, or he put it on a contract for like $8,000. He put it on a contract for like $8,000 or something like that. And he sold it to me for $35,000. Mind you, I'm 22 years old. Absolutely nothing but student debt, tuition. And so this guy just came out of nowhere, was like, oh, you got good credit. Let me take you around to all these banks. So I just followed him. I'm like, okay, take me around. So he took me around to all these different banks. I ended up getting like $60,000 in credit cards. I was like, okay. So I ended up liquidating that to buy the house or whatever the case may be. But when I look back on it, I was like, dude, I was a newbie. Well, just make $5,000 on me. Why you had to, because this is the heart of Bankhead. 2008, every house in Bankhead was going for $500. You didn't have to overly charge me $35,000. The house wasn't even worth $35,000. When I sold it 3 years later, I had to sell it for $8,000 because that's what it really was worth. So at the end of the day, I say that to say this. You will get scammed in some type of capacity if you don't do your due diligence and you pay cash. And when I say that, as a lender, we're going to do all of our due diligence. We're going to do inspection. We're going to do an appraisal. We're going to know exactly what that value is. We may even get a BPO, a collateral desktop analysis. We're going to get every evaluation component we're going to get in order before we land on that property. But when we're paying cash, we forget to do any of those evaluations. So we would just overpay for things and not knowing we're overpaying because what? Black community, cash is king. I don't have to evaluate anything. I got the money, and that's a poverty mindset. Because we're checking line items and we checking to see if we're overpaying that we broke. No, that's wealth mindset. A wealth mindset will check every line item. I remember when I was being a realtor, I had a multi-billion-dollar client, one of my biggest clients who I sold my first apartment complex to. This guy stopped a whole appraisal for $35. No, not a whole appraisal, but a whole closing for $35. And I can't lie, that was probably 8 years ago. And that moment taught me so much. I'm looking at this guy, proof of funds. His play count, 20-some million in it. That's play count. That's just money he was buying stuff in. That has nothing to do with his real portfolio. So I said, if this guy's stopping for $35, I damn sure better be stopping for my $35 because I'm nowhere near where this man is. And we have to change out. We have to delete that mindset that we can't check our numbers and thinking that's poverty mindset when that's really a wealth practice.
That is so true because it's like you don't want to feel like you don't know, you don't understand. So you kind of walk into there fronting like you got it all together.
Right.
They're just going to front you right and scam you.
Exactly. That's just who we are. And it's cool, but I just want us to understand it's okay to check your numbers. It's okay to call someone back if you see something, an extra charge on something. It's okay. It's okay.
So what would you say a new real estate investor should do if they're looking at a wholesale deal?
I like that. First of all, a new real estate investor looking at a wholesale deal, Honestly, I think as a new real estate investor, wholesaling, if you're not capitalized. See, we started wholesaling because we didn't have capital. We had capital, we were straight into fix and flipping, but we started wholesaling because our capital was minimum and we needed to get our liquidity up. So the key is to understand your numbers, because I was a successful wholesaler because I understood and I overstood. I overstood the numbers. I sold a guy apartment complex. He wasn't even looking for it. I was like, this is it. How can you? And if you understand your number, you can sell anything, because most people don't understand their numbers. And we buy off of hype. What was your question? I'm sorry.
I was saying, and it's gonna actually.
Oh, the newbie.
Yeah, but how do you understand your numbers? How do you get to that point? Because a lot of real estate. So, for example, if you're like a new real estate investor, you're looking at like Redfin, Zillow, and they're like, this house is 50 grand.
Right.
They don't know. Like, you don't know. How does somebody determine what the number should be for the actual value of the property as is, the rehab, and what it's going to be worth after?
That's a really great question. And when I started doing wholesale, I was a realtor. So that allowed me to honestly play all sides. I knew exactly what my seller was going to max out, his minimum, and I knew exactly what my buyer max was. So that allows me to really, really run up numbers, because I played both sides of it. And I was a realtor. Everyone trusted me. Thank y'all. But it was, the transaction was trustworthy. But most importantly, if I didn't have my realtor access, this is what I would do. There's a lot of applications out there like Redfin, Zillow. You got PropScreen. You have like I said, those are probably the main three. And then you need a realtor on your team. Those four. So prior to having a realtor on your team, I would check all of them. You want to check every application that's going to give you some type of valuation. Why? Is because everyone has different information. So what I'm going to do is take the average of all the information that I see. If I don't have a realtor involved to be able to pull me comps, and even if I have comps, I'm still going to look at my own. I'm still going to look at do my own evaluation based on all the different applications. So first, it's only really 3 numbers that really any real estate investor needs to know in order to maximize a wholesale deal, a fix and flip, new construction, or a buy and hold. Buy and hold is different. We can get to that. But purchase price. You need to know, are you overpaying for the purchase? Because people will sell you anything. I'm a wholesaler. If you buy it, I sold it. And I have to tell people, I don't care what a wholesaler tell you. It's their job to overly sell you on whatever it is that they are presenting to you. Of course, I'm going to put my property in the best light possible. Of course, I put something over this hole back here that you ain't seen because you haven't did your own due diligence. So then most importantly is to know how much the properties are going for. So there's 2 values. There's an as-is value and an after repair value. I'm going to not only look for after repair comes, I'm going to look for as-is comes. I need to know what people are buying my property for at the current state. So this is the transaction prior to the transaction. So basically, before anyone can sell a retail property, they had to buy it first. So I'm going to pull comps. I want to know what people are buying my houses for, buying the houses for it to start. So if everybody around me is buying it for $50,000, I'm not paying a wholesaler $70,000. That's just what it is. So you got to know your numbers. So you got to know your as-is value. You have to know your after-repair value. Your after-repair value is nothing but the comparables in the area that looks like yours. You can't just go off the Zestimate. So that's where we fail. Do not just go off the Zestimate, because Zillow pulls everything. You got new construction homes and fix and flip homes. You got, ranch-style homes pulled in there. You have, duplexes. You have all these homes. So what you have to do is go to the map section of Zillow. You have to filter that map for just sold properties. This is on Zillow. I use another one called HomeSnap, and that's an app too. So this is Zillow. I filter it to see just sold. I'm not just going to go by Zillow. I'm going to handpick every property around my property that has sold. And I'm going to see which one of these properties looks like mine. I'm throwing out, if mine is a fix and flip, I'm throwing out new construction. That's not my comp. If mine is a ranch, I'm throwing out 2-story. That's not my comp. So I'm going to go and I'm looking for 3 to 4 properties around my property that's going to give me an after repair value that becomes my comp. And I'm going to do that in every application. Then I'm going to take the average of everything that I see, and that's going to give me a more accurate number on top of the realtors being able to pull your comps too. And then, of course, your rehab. As a wholesaler, you're not rehabbing anything. But the more you understand the rehab, the more you could maximize your profitability. Why? Because if you're thinking, the rehab is 50, 60, and I walk in and say, I can get this done for 30. Oh, I got a good deal. You didn't know your numbers. So when you know all of your numbers, you got to look, a successful wholesaler looks at a deal as if they are buying it. I'm looking at it as if I'm buying it. If I'm buying this, how much I'm going to rehab this property for? If I'm buying this, I'm going to do all of my research and figure out how much can I sell this property for. And then I'm going to make sure I purchase it and position myself in the right position from the start. Because your profit, you purchase your profit. Your profit is in the deal from the start. It's not in the deal once you sell it. The profit is in the deal from the start. So if you go into a deal out of the money, what you think you're going to come out at? Out the money. So you got to go into the deal knowing your numbers being in the money. So when you do get out of your deal, you are also still in the money, which is profit.
Do you think that sometimes new investors could be so eager that they'll overpay just to say they own something?
Yeah, it's cute. I call it cute investing. I think that, the young lady before me said that. It's cute investing. I call this, it's cute. Okay, you own some land, but you just bought all this land, but do you not understand the cost of infrastructure? Do you understand the cost of developing on that land? Do you understand all these costs that you factor in all of this? So I feel that in the community, we doing cute stuff, and it's not about cute anything. Do the numbers work or do it don't? It's all about the numbers. So yeah, people are doing cute investing, and I encourage people, don't do cute investing. I don't, and I say this example another, later in the interview, about cute investing and the power of the numbers is more important than cute investing.
Because I see you doing so many different things, but I'm trying to figure out, what's your best producing line of business?
Well, I would say this, graduating from college with this wealth of knowledge. And I struggled with this for years because I'm a financial advisor too. I have life insurance. Licenses, all my financial licenses. So I'm a financial advisor too. So I struggled with having this wealth of knowledge and going in. I became a realtor because that was just something to do. I mean, when you're 20-some years, when you're 22, 23, being a realtor is like the thing. And so it's like, okay, let me go get my real estate license then, because they scam me trying to invest. So let me take this a different route. So I ended up getting my real estate license. But I knew when I got my real estate license, that wasn't my be all end all. That was a process on my journey to get to where I am today. So I'm glad of my journey. I have done every aspect of real estate and finance possible. I've been the realtor, the wholesaler, I got tax liens, subject twos. I mean, any aspect of real estate I have done over these 15 years of just building my journey. But I would say I knew that no matter all the wealth of information I had, I knew that where I really want to be was in finance. And I understand that it wasn't real estate. Finance is the umbrella. Real estate is underneath this umbrella. So I began to and that's one of the reasons why I never really branded myself, because for a long time it was real estate, and I never wanted to brand that. I wanted to be the financer, and real estate is just underneath that umbrella. And I understood that a long time ago, and I understood that real estate fell underneath. So I wanted to rebrand myself to be more in the finance space and not just a real estate girl. Although I can do all of that, and I can speak about all of that in detail. That was probably my process. So now is where I did all of that in my journey to get to where I am today, which is my lending company. Right. That is one of the most powerful pieces on my puzzle.
That's one of the things I see you kind of putting most energy into.
That's because I want that to stand out above all. I want people to understand. I understand all this stuff, but at some point in time, I had to brand myself in one aspect or the other. So branding myself in finance and the money industry is where I want to be.
How did you get into that space?
So that's a good question. So I guess being on my journey. So that's the beauty of being on this journey, is that I knew I wanted to be in real estate and finance, but I had to take this journey to really get to that place of where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. Like, this is that foundation I'm going to stand on. So as a realtor for a long time, I was everything. I went to find this. That's why I was really good as a wholesaler and everything else. We went to find the house. We went to, okay, you need contractors. I got the contractors. Oh, okay, you need a lender. I got the lenders. So doing that for 10 plus years, setting everybody else up, you begin to realize the importance. And then I had an aha moment about 8 years ago, because I was real estate. I was, I was trying to figure out that real estate piece. And then I had an aha moment. I said, you know what? I can't buy all the real estate, but I can finance it all. So that allows me to control everybody's real estate without buying it. Let me move back into this space. So when I had the aha moment about 5 or 6 years ago, I began to I just began to reverse and began to go into this direction, So, and that's how. And then my business partner, we met about 8, 9 years ago. We always had this connection. He was more into business financing, so he did more business loans and things of that nature. I was more on the real estate side and financing that. So when we connected, he was like, "Hey, I think it's time to go direct." I said, "Let's go." And we went in the lab and we put it all together. However, you don't just put that together. This is years of experience and years of connections and years of collabing with people that's already in this space. So when you understand that every asset needs financing, you begin to build relationships with who? Bankers. And over time, you begin to dissect what's behind the curtain. It's like, oh, that's what y'all doing? Okay. So, I'm doing this. Okay. So, over time, because everyone loves to talk about what it is that they do, you just got to know how to put all your puzzles and pieces together. So over time, all these colleagues and these bankers we have built these relationships with who have really opened up the door to put us in position to even become the lender. And that's really what it boils down to, is the colleagues in the finance and hedge fund space that really put us in position to talk to the right people to be able to become the lender and the direct lender, not a broker.
What's the difference between a lender and a broker?
Well, a broker is like someone who's brokering deals. So you'll go out there and you will refer business to us. Yeah, the middleman. And the lender is the one that's really lending.
What kind of deals do you like to lend on?
I lend on all. You know why? Because, and this space is important to me on a whole nother level. No one will ever tell us how to dot our I's and cross our T's. One thing I understand about finance and loans, it's not the fact that you got it or you don't got it. What your paperwork say? It's all about paperwork. It's a snapshot of your paperwork. So if you forget to dot the I and cross that T, you'll get denied and thinking that you're not credit worthiness. But all they didn't tell you is how to dot that I and cross that T. So this space is special to me because I want us to build legacies. I want us to build up our communities. But if we're not the gatekeepers of this money, then they have the power to say, no, denied. You didn't dot the I, denied. But we'll do, hey, all I need you to do is go back and dot that I, cross that T, sit it back over to me, we'll get you funded. We need this in our community. They are the gatekeepers. If we are not at this table, our community will never be built. And one of my mottos is community without true access to money. It's like water to a plant. We can't grow without true access, not these trickle access. I'm talking about access. I'm talking about billions. I'm talking about money. So somebody had to create it.
One of the things that I think is interesting when you start getting into the lending space is protecting your capital, because you want to make sure that the money you put out, you can either get back or you can get back basically. How do you protect against that?
That's a great question. See, the thing about lending, private lending, we're different from banking, which we could talk about that. Banking is, they're going to give you almost 100%, 97.5%. With us, we lend based on values. So we position ourselves to win from start. So if you do default, which we're not trying to be in the default building business, but you do default, we're winning still. And we'll make more money by taking the property back and reselling it or getting our own team, because a lot of lenders have their own internal team to go finish your rehab and make double our money back. So at the end of the day, we're never going to lose. We'll never lose. And then we also, one of the things, and the beauty about it as well is that being in this seat, you can create products. And that's one of the things that's going to make us so unique. And we're already unique. We just haven't started marketing the way we need to. But the thing about it is defer payments. If I can give you a 12-month loan for you to fix and flip, and I defer your payments for 12 months, why would you default? Why? Why? You don't have a monthly payment for 12 months. All you have to do is just build the property and sell it. Win. We will put you in position to win. It's up to you to lose.
It sounds like being the lender is the more advantageous position to be in. You were kind of saying it, but you were talking about how when you were doing real estate, you had to go find all these people. Mm-hmm. When you're the lender, the people coming to you have already found the people. And so that makes it way easier for you. And then you get the deal at such an advantageous position because the person has to also bring the cash to the table to make it make sense.
Right.
Why would you do anything else?
Why would you do anything else? Exactly. So when this aha moment hit, I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the foundation. Let's build on top of this, And honestly, going in this journey, this 15-year journey, this is the first time I felt like this is it. For a long time, I mean, it's so much bigger than being a realtor. No disrespect to realtors. I mean, one thing I want to teach a realtor is that being a transaction agent is great, but you have to learn how to invest, because if you don't learn how to invest, once you stop transacting, your money stops as well. So as a real estate agent, the next level is investing. We are the one that's actually finding the deals. We're also putting every aspect of that deal together. So understand that the belief that you're giving that investor that you're representing, you can do the same thing because you know your numbers. So that's one of the things, it's another level to being a realtor that I want all realtors to understand, is we got to become the investor as well.
So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about development. It seems like you're just doing bigger and bolder things. You went from being an agent to wholesaling to flipping, but now you're just like, I want to be the big dog. So when did you decide to get into development, and how did that take place?
Honestly, it starts in your mind. I was already there, but sometimes, as visionaries, we always 20, 30 years ahead of our time, right? So I always felt I was a visionary. So I was always there. But growing up in our communities, we're not blessed with millions of dollars, and we don't get a loan for millions of dollars. I walked out of college after I got my master's with over $150,000 in student debt, and this is 6-7 years ago. So at the end of the day, it was always there, because you don't have the money, 1 + 1 still equals 2. So regardless, so a lot of people who are visionaries, we have the vision that can make it happen, but our money haven't caught up to the vision yet. So once the money start catching up, and then you start doing bigger and better plays, because you're already there. You already know your plays. You already know what works. So the more money you get, you're able to invest into what you already know works.
And you're doing some pretty impressive deals. They're like large properties. How do you put that together? The financing, the construction, how do you getting the land? This is the ground up stuff.
Right. So that's a great question. Honestly, I focus on the numbers. Yeah. It's all the numbers. It's the numbers. I don't care what the property is, because the numbers. See, back in the day, it was location, location, location. To me, it's numbers, numbers, numbers. Because if my numbers work, my location works too. The numbers not going to work. The numbers is not going to work if your location is off. Why? Because your location is pulling your comps. So if you focus on the numbers first, everything else will be what it's going to be. So the key is that as long as my numbers work, and I don't do tight numbers, I'm far in the money. So if anything, any mistakes happens, and that's another thing, we do deals. We can't do deals that kind of make sense on paper. If it kind of makes sense on paper, it's not going to make sense once you start pulling the walls back and really developing, because there's always unforeseen expenses. So your deal has to make too much sense on paper. Like, hey, I can fail and I still land on all of my feet and yours. It's one of those things where I focus on the numbers. So it's not about It's not about any of that. It's about understanding, do your numbers make sense? If you buying it at this price, you sell it at this, does it make sense? Are you within, and I use the 70% equation, which I recommend every investor to use. I don't care if you wholesaling or if you fix and flip or whatever you're doing, always use the 70% equation. And I tell people, a lender will lend on anything. Why? Because we will always position ourselves in the money. So if a lender ever tell you to bring more than 20% to the table, you are out of the money. You are out of the money. And you got to bring more to the table to put yourself back in the money. But what you don't realize is they lending, but the additional that you're bringing to the table is your profit that you're buying into.
Right.
So, that's one of the things that's very, very important as well.
What was your favorite development deal in terms of numbers?
My current one. I'm like Fat Joe. Yesterday price ain't today's price. Because you know why? This one is because the economy is different. We got 2% interest rates. I want us to understand this is historical. We'll never get 2% interest rate. When I first started this 15 years ago, interest rate was 8-9%. So to understand that the Federal Reserve and whoever came up with this thing during the pandemic, this plan during the pandemic, to give the whole entire nation 2% real estate interest rate, they're giving away real estate right now, which really means that you get more house for your money today than you would have got 2 years ago, because interest rates are lower now. So people can buy more house now. So to me, the deal that I got currently is probably going to be one of my best ones, because honestly, it's my first multi-million-dollar project. So I picked up this project at $490. And I mean, I'm not $490, $390. Dang, that was a good deal. In the heart of Paces Ferry, Vinings. Anyway, I picked up the deal at $390, and we put about $500 into it, and it's worth about $1.9. So that's my little baby. That's my baby.
What kind of work did you do to that property to bring it to value that high?
And that's a great question. So one of the things, as always, I'm always going to revert back to the numbers. So, but prior to me purchasing the property, I did a thorough search. I want to know what's selling. How is it selling? How did it look? I went modern. There's not a lot of moderns around, but I jump on faith because I know the power of moderns right now. Everybody wants moderns. It's like Uber. We all didn't know we needed Uber until Uber came. So that's what moderns is. I mean, you're in California, so moderns in California is a lot more normal than it is here in Georgia. Georgia sprinkles, so moderns have just became a thing like 4 or 5 years ago. Sprinkles been here, but now everyone is like, I want to build a modern. So now it's becoming that thing. So I began to research multi-million-dollar moderns around my neighborhood, and I wanted to see how they're selling. So what I did was compare moderns to regular homes, and I seen that the moderns went under contract and sold quicker. So okay, cool, we're gonna go with the modern. And then I evaluated and I researched exactly the type of build outs that they was building to get their numbers. And that's another thing we have to understand. In order to get that comp number, I don't care what that comp is. In order to get that comp number, you got to do similar renovations. You got to do similar rehabs. So that's what I did. I researched the neighborhood, thoroughly researched the neighborhood, drove around the neighborhood. And what I saw in this neighborhood, I saw that there was not a lot of moderns in this neighborhood. But when I drove around within a quarter mile of my property, there was 8 moderns that was built. To some people, they may say, oh, moderns is not selling. What I seen was these people want moderns so bad that they bought their own land and they built their own modern and they didn't sell it. See, but you got to see the vision. For these people who never sold their property, because the part of also researching, I took every one of their addresses. I want to know how much, when they bought it, and because I want to know exactly what they put into their property as well. So we research all of that. So that taught me that people are looking for these modern properties, but it's not any on the market. So they took the initiative. This is a high net worth area who has the money to build their own. They're not looking for a builder to build anything. So these people bought their land, they tore their property down and built their own mods. There's 8 moderns within the walking distance on my property that never hit the market. So that comes out of your research. You got to thoroughly research. You got to thoroughly know your market. before you get into any deal.
What's your take on the Atlanta market? Because these days the prices are stuff I've never seen before. I used to come out here 3-4 years ago, you would see homes for like 200 grand. Now everything's like $500,000 or better. Do you think that it's going to continue to go higher, or do you think that maybe it's a little bit overbought?
It's definitely overvalued. It's overvalued in certain neighborhoods, like the West End, like the neighborhood that was, and it's definitely overvalued. And in so many cases, I mean, in some neighborhoods, like the neighborhood where we was picking up houses for 5, 10, 15, 20,000 at 5, 6, 7 years ago, they're selling for 150 as is, dilapidated now. So to me, a part of it is wholesale hype. It's wholesale hype.
Wholesale hype, man.
Wholesale hype. Wholesale hype is people who not going to put any money into the deal, but there's overly wholesaling the deal. So which pushes everybody to overly do their part. So now you overly wholesaled me. So now I got to charge the end buyer a higher price because I came in at a higher price. Instead of us understanding the market and keeping the market low so we can all win, you got wholesalers making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. This is not California. The average wholesale deal is probably $5,000, $10,000. If you get a $20,000, $30,000 deal, that's good. But these wholesalers are putting $50,000, $60,000 on these deals and whatever the case may be. So I think a part of it is wholesale hype. And when wholesale hype meets the real market, it's gonna become a crash.
You have an academy, Flip for Freedom and Invest for Freedom. Can you talk about that?
So that's one of the things I haven't started pushing yet. So, as you know, I've been on this journey studying finance, real estate, ever since I was 18 years old, and over 15 plus years ago. So all of what's in my academy is just over time, I just was writing out my ebooks. So a lot of that was just me taking my knowledge and putting it on paper and putting it into a course and putting it into ebooks. But I haven't had a chance to really push it like I wanted to. So that may come in after a year or two. My focus right now was, really building the foundation of our lending company. But that's just one of them things. Once I do start getting my face out there like I want to, is just always having those products out there that could still help people, get to their finish line. Because a lot of my products, like the Flip for Freedom course is a course that's on every aspect of real estate, not just a wholesaling course. You're going to be taught wholesaling. And then, I'm a numbers person, so it's an extensive number lessons in there. And every aspect, I'm going to teach you your numbers on fix and flip, your numbers on buy and hold, your new construction numbers, and the commercial. So it teaches all the aspect of new construction, buy and hold, fix and flip, wholesaling, as well as new construction, the Flip for Freedom.
I like that you continue to harp on the numbers, because as I think about it, it's easy to get caught up in the look of real estate and making it look good and all of that can then take you over budget and make you lose money. So that's really interesting.
Absolutely. That counting, your accountant will make you break you in a fix and flip deal. Your accountant. And at one point in time, I remember I hired a GC, and this particular GC wanted me to pretty much wire the funds to his account so he can handle things. That was probably one of my first ones, and I wired it. And I immediately learned my lesson. I'm like, first of all, why is I'm trusting somebody else doing the accounting with my funds, and I'm an accountant? So it's like, it was at this moment, I'm like, no, you don't even do accounting. You're a GC. That's not even your expertise. And that's why a lot of deals fail, because we're trusting the GC to do everything. The GC is your accountant. The GC is your budgeting person. The GC is handling the actual project. The GC is hiring all these different people. At some point in time, a ball going to get dropped. You know why? Because he got 5 of you going.
Right.
So at some point in time, that ball is going to get dropped. So I have no disrespect to these GCs, but I have a love-hate relationship with GCs. And the reason being is they have no skin in the game, and they just completely disrespect. They don't care about budgets. They don't care about deadlines. How dare you take my property and not meet a deadline? So, but all of that, I learned my lesson, and you began to put your contracts in order better. Okay. Don't miss a deadline. We're going to subtract and deduct from your pay. So at the end of the day, we all win. We all win. Every day there's a deduction that the deadline had not been met. You got to get real tight with this stuff.
Because it's costing you money.
It costs, exactly. And the fact that now I got to go find you to do something that you should have been did. Right. No, so let's call a spade a spade. Okay, it's not there yet, no problem. Every day is $250 deduction. When it's going to be done? Okay, a week. Okay, that's $1,000. No problem. No problem. No problem at all. That's your money. And when it's not done, and one thing I also learned, how to regroup faster. Okay, you didn't meet the deadline twice. No problem. I got somebody else that's gonna come in and finish that out. And that's it. Yeah. And that's all in my contract. I'm not gonna allow a GC to mess up my legacy because his business all over the place. My business on point. His business all over the place. So you have to control and manage everybody. And one of the biggest managers, and I actually, at a point now, I don't even hire GCs. I have 2 people in place of a GC. Is a project manager and a consultant manager. My consultant handles my permits, handles everything in the county, does everything in the county. Also helps kind of oversee the project too, make sure everything is moving according to the codes and everything of the county. Very important piece of the puzzle. And the project manager. And my project, and your project manager are not asking for the type of fee and profit that your GC is asking for. And they don't want to really do the job. Right. And I realized that by default, I'm paying this GC, he's never at my deal. Man. So how in the world I'm paying you and you never here? So let's just eliminate you, because obviously this project manager is the one that's really managing this project. So you learn by default. you make enough costly mistakes, you will figure out what I need to have in this paperwork.
Do you feel like sometimes GCs adjust their labor based on the value of the neighborhood?
Absolutely. Oh my God, they got me. They got me, but I got them back. No, we're not going to do that. Because one thing about it is, Atlanta is so small. One thing I'm not going to do is allow you to charge me this price over here in the West End, but because I'm in this high-end neighborhood, you charge me a whole nother price. No, let's come to a better agreement, unless you're not my guy. Mm-hmm. You're just not my guy, because you're not going to overcharge me based on this neighborhood. The only thing I'm overcharging, you're not going to overcharge me in labor. Only thing that's going to be overcharged is my material, because of course I can't use the same material in a lower end neighborhood and a higher end neighborhood. So my material costs got to be higher. But guess what? I don't allow my GCs to put my material and labor together either. Send me the invoice for my material. Right. I'll pay that directly. And send me your invoice for this labor. I'll give you half up front. You finish it, we'll take care of the other half. You gotta overly control these guys. Right. These guys will mess you up. I can't, Tupac started coming out. I ain't the killer, but this is my legacy, brother. And also I need us to understand, especially we want to use black GCs, but you got to understand, no one has given us $1 million to do this. So the money we have is everything we done saved up over time. So how dare you come into my project and just half-ass it? It's not fair to no one. Honestly, it's not fair to anyone when you do that. So respect people's funds. Respect everything that we got to do to even get to these deals, to hire you. And another thing that GCs do, you'll try to steal $10,000, $15,000. You didn't realize I got $10 million worth of real estate on my books that needs rehab. So you didn't cut yourself out of a future upside because you're trying to overcharge me on $10,000 transaction. You don't get no more than 2 times to overcharge me.
I heard you say that you pay half labor up front. Is that even with new contractors, or is that with contractors you have an existing relationship with?
All the above. Because if you can't get on my page, you can't do business.
All right. I've always been kind of hesitant to pay half up front, half later.
I will pay half up front. Okay. I would pay half of labor because people max half labor. It could be 25%. I pay you something because people have to eat, they have to do, they have to travel to your project and things like that. And one thing I do, money moves people. So let me go ahead and get you moving so we can get to the end goal and we all get paid. So honestly, I learned that by default. And it's not to be a hard person. It's to understand that this is business, and we're gonna and one thing about business, you don't align yourself with business partners who are not aligned with you. So at some point in time, when the alignment is off, you have to come to the table and wonder, should we continue this business partnership? Because we're not even aligned. So alignment is very key to me. So when I'm hiring my GCs and project manager my team, it's about alignment. You know, I'm not trying to get over on anyone. I want everyone to get paid. But when I'm going to make sure I'm straight before anything else going to get taken care of, you know, so.
I haven't seen you pulling up in valet, going out to eat and going to clubs lately. You just focus on the work now?
It's a pandemic. I can't, I have old school parents and they be, every time they out, they talking about, bringing the virus home and all this stuff. So it was one of them things. It's just a pandemic. I'm at a point where I'm ready to get back out networking and stuff. I still, go out to my dinners and stuff, but it's just the pandemic. And to be honest with you, I don't think we understand the importance of this pandemic moment. It ain't about rushing to get back out there. And, rush to get back out there with the right direction. So a lot of us rush to get back out there and our direction's still wrong. So take that time to redirect your direction in the right way, because it's an old saying, but direction is absolutely more important than speed. You can go real far the wrong way, and you have to turn around. So, I took this moment. To me, it was like a golden moment. Because I always thought, I was like, man, if I just get a moment where all my competition stopped for a second. Like, we had a moment that everybody stopped. So, if you took advantage of that moment, you're going to come out winning like crazy. And so I just understood this moment on another level. It's not about getting back out there. It's really perfecting the foundation. So once it do open back up, it becomes a blast off.
What is one gem you would leave with the people about lending, development, or just real estate in general?
I can say the same thing. Honestly, I would say one thing I could leave is understand and respect the numbers. Understand and respect the numbers. When you understand your numbers and respect the numbers, you will win. Because numbers don't lie. And so that's I would say perfect that first. When you perfect that, any real estate deal is easy.
I gotta ask the question. I was trying to undo it. For some reason, it keeps disappearing on me.
You got it?
Yeah, I think I have it memorized now.
Right, I'll stop it here.
All right. What is it gonna take for black people to put black people first?
Great question. Great question. I would say this though. What it's going to take us to rebuild our foundation. Why is because no matter who you are, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Right now, the black community is an empty cup. We can't help one another. So we got to help ourselves first. If we help ourselves, we can pour into anyone's cup. So the key is rebuilding our individual foundations and restructuring the family households. Because if you look at the households is the foundation of the community. The reason why we're pouring from an empty cup is because our foundation is broken. So when we begin to just individually, because we're all interdependent of one another, we all have different gifts that can help one another. So when we interdependently get our stuff together and I perfect my gift, I can pour my gift into you and you can pour your gift into me and we can all win. The key is that we all try to pour from an empty cup, and that's almost impossible. That's why we're taking, because everyone's cup is empty. So we need to restructure our foundation so everyone can grow from a foundation where they can, just thrive in. I say this, it's really simple. The way life is, we're put in environments of growth. A fish cannot grow on land. His environment is the water. A lion grows in the jungle. So you put the black community in an environment of poverty, crime, drugs, abuse, less than everything. You put us in this environment, what do you think is going to grow from that? It's everything that we're not. So in order for us as a community to grow, we got to restructure the environment of which we're growing in. The environment needs to be thriving. It needs to be two-parent households or two people pouring into their kids. It needs to be credit. We need to understand the importance of credit was the foundation of everyone's situation. So understanding all of these things puts us in position so we can thrive. I can think better when I ain't worried about my bills paid.
Right.
Seriously. I can be truly creative when I'm not worried about my bills paid. So the key is that we worried about things because we're being brought up into an environment that's almost impossible to thrive out. That's why when we do make it out, it's like, dang, what y'all do? Because how did you break through all of that poverty? How did you break through that crime? How did you break through that abuse? How did you break through dad not being there? How did you break through mom working multiple jobs and didn't nurture you into greatness? How do you break through, you know, taking care of your siblings at 12 years old? Now you got to be mom while mom at work. How do you break through these things? And that's why people look at the breakthroughs like they do, because it's like, wow, you all figured it out. When really it's the environment that allows us to figure that out. So change our environment when we can pour into one another.
I think the interesting thing about it is you're 100% right, because you didn't grow up in that environment, and I didn't grow up in that environment, and so you tend to produce better fruit when
Exactly.
you have better soil. So,
Absolutely.
wow. Where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they support you have going on?
So yeah, you can find me at on Instagram or Facebook or any of the social media platforms at Reunekea Williams, but my handle is Reunek. That's REUNEK. And if you are interested in funding your next real estate deal, go to capitalondemand.com. No matter, one of our motto is, we don't deny you, you deny yourself. We will help you get your deal done.